100 races, 0 wins. And the guy inside that car? A two-time Cup Series champion who made winning look like a habit for nearly 2 decades. Here is the part nobody is saying out loud. This might not just be a slump. This might be the end, and every single race from here is either Kyle Busch's last chance or the quiet beginning of a retirement nobody planned. And what makes this whole situation even harder to process is that right now, in the same moment his winless streak hits a number that should be impossible for someone like him, the decisions that are going to define the rest of his entire career are already being made, possibly without him in the room. Tension set up. The streak nobody saw coming. Let us rewind for a second, because to understand how serious this is, you have to understand how unthinkable it is. When Kyle Busch left Joe Gibbs Racing after 2022 and strapped into the number 8 Chevrolet at Richard Childress Racing, the narrative practically wrote itself. Veteran driver, proven winner, chip on his shoulder. New team, new energy, redemption story incoming. And for a minute, a very short, very promising minute, it looked exactly like that. He wins at Auto Club Speedway early in 2023. Then again by June, back in the championship conversation, the comeback looked real. Then something changed. Nobody can fully explain it. And that is exactly what makes this so unsettling. No wins through the rest of 2023. Nothing in all of 2024. Nothing in 2025. 7 races deep into 2026, and still nothing. 100 races, not a single trip to victory lane. Now here is where it gets really uncomfortable. His previous worst winless stretch across his entire career was 36 races back in 2016 and 2017. He just nearly tripled that. And it does not stop there. Through 7 races this season, he is sitting 24th in points. Best finish is 12th. Not one single top 8 result, and that has never happened at this point in any of his 21 previous seasons. Not even in the rough years. Not even close. That number should tell you everything about how different this stretch actually is from anything we have seen before. Tension. The bigger picture nobody wants to say. And then you zoom out, and it gets even harder to look at. His 9-year streak of winning at least 1 race per season gone in 2024. Missed the playoffs in 2024 for the first time since 2012. Missed again in 2025. And right now in 2026, he is not even in the conversation. So here is the question that actually matters. And I want you to sit with this for a second before we keep going. Is Kyle Busch struggling because he has genuinely lost a step, or is he struggling because Richard Childress Racing simply cannot give him a car capable of winning in this era of NASCAR? Because that answer changes everything. And honestly, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and that is the most uncomfortable answer of all. Because if it is the car, there is a solution. If it is the driver at 41 years old, in a contract year, with no wins in nearly 3 years, there might not be one. And the sport does not wait around to find out. NASCAR has never been sentimental about that. Here is what we do know. Kyle Busch turns 41 inches May. His contract with Richard Childress Racing is up at the end of 2026. Silly season this year is expected to be far more chaotic than 2025, when only 2 full-time Cup rides actually changed hands. The moves are already starting to happen around him, with or without him involved. Party'll reveal the Bristol moment. But before any of those decisions lock in, there is a race this weekend that could completely reframe this whole story. Bristol Motor Speedway, the Food City 500. Kyle Busch has 8 wins on that concrete oval. 8. There is no track on the schedule where the history is heavier, where the momentum could shift faster, where a driver who has been invisible all season can suddenly remind an entire sport why they feared him for 2 decades. If Kyle Busch is going to flip the script in 2026, Bristol is where it starts. And if he cannot do it there at a track literally built for his style, then the conversations that come next are going to be very, very different in tone. The pressure in that garage right now is something else entirely. Reveal: 5 futures and 1 nobody saw coming. So let us talk about where Kyle Busch actually goes from here. Because there are 5 real options in play right now, and at least 2 of them are genuinely surprising. Option 1. He stays at Richard Childress Racing. Look, this is probably the least likely outcome based on everything we just broke down, but do not bury it completely. If Bristol sparks something, if the team finds consistency late in the year, Kyle Busch re-signing is not 0%, just close to it. Option 2, and this one makes more sense than most people realize: Spire Motorsports. Carson Hocevar is locked in long-term in the 77, but the rest of their lineup, wide open. And here is the detail that changes everything. Kyle Busch literally sold Kyle Busch Motorsports to Spire after 2023. He has already been running and winning Truck Series races with them. His son, Brexton Busch, is working his way up through the ranks. This is not just a career move. This could be a decade-long family investment wearing a racing uniform. That connection is deeper than most people are giving it credit for. Option 3. And I know how this sounds, but stay with me. Hendrick Motorsports. The same team where Kyle Busch started his Cup career over 20 years ago. If Alex Bowman's seat in the 48 becomes available, and with the struggles and the health absences over the past few seasons, that is far from settled, Rick Hendrick might look at veterans before youth, especially if Connor Zilisch stays locked up at Trackhouse. And one detail nobody is connecting: HendrickCars.com is already sponsoring Kyle Busch in the Truck Series with Spire right now. You tell me if that feels accidental. Option 4. Legacy Motor Club. Backed by Toyota, co-owned by Jimmy Johnson and Richard Petty, and planning to expand to 3 cars in 2027. The door at 2311 Racing with Denny Hamlin looks closed. Corey Heim is expected to take that seat. But a team anchored by 2 of the most legendary names in NASCAR history, adding Kyle Busch in a Toyota, that storyline would write itself. And option 5 is the one that nobody wants to say, but everyone is already thinking. Kyle Busch steps back from Cup entirely. Not retirement, he has made it clear he still wants a Truck Series championship. And with Spire, he would instantly be the favorite to win one. But walking away from the Cup level would mean something. It would mean something that a lot of fans are not ready for. Honestly, based on everything he has said, it might not be what Kyle is ready for either. Because here is what keeps getting overlooked in all of this. The fire is still there. You can see it in how he talks about this team, about this season, about Bristol. The question is not whether Kyle Busch still wants to win at the highest level. The question is whether the sport is going to give him a real chance to prove it, or whether time and circumstances are going to close that window before he ever gets the shot. Debate trigger closing plus CTA. And that is really what this whole story is. Not just a winless streak, not just a contract situation. This is about whether one of the greatest drivers of this generation gets one last legitimate chapter, or whether we are already living through the final pages without realizing it. I am not ready to write Kyle Busch off, but I would be dishonest if I told you this does not feel different from every other rough stretch he has ever had. Because it does. Something is different this time, and I think deep down, you already know it too. So here is what I want to know from you. Does Kyle Busch stay at Richard Childress Racing and fight for one more year? Does he land at Spire, at Hendrick, at Legacy, or is this actually the beginning of the end of his Cup career? And more importantly, is this a Kyle Busch problem or a Richard Childress Racing problem? Drop your take in the comments. I want to see where this fan base actually stands. And if this kind of real, no-filler NASCAR conversation is something you are here for, hit subscribe. We are building something here, one honest race breakdown at a time.